bonus. Skill trigger.
Oh, no you don't.
Hey everyone, it's Jen again. So here's my weekly update, and last week when I had busted my finger on the door, I had to take a few days off from creating art assets. At the time, I had in mind that I was going to be working on bond sprites, but since the majority of time spent on those sprites is by doing kind of like the refining process of like doing inks and colors, my finger just really wasn't being like cooperative at that time. So I decided to do kind of like this rough animation because I had bought Procreate Dream in November, and I had the intention of making something in Procreate Dream just because I do enjoy like traditional frame by frame kind of style animation, and I wanted to play around with it a little bit. The software itself was a little bit more difficult to get into than I thought it would be, given how just kind of intuitive and easy Procreate was to learn, and I expected there to be some more kind of like transferable skills from like, you know, basic video editing and some of the other animation softwares that I've used in the past, but there's a lot of like hidden features or like touch gestures to know in Procreate Dreams that I just didn't have the mindset at the time to like go in and start learning the program, because I was kind of in the middle of like these other workflows that I was like, okay, I will revisit this at another time when I'm in the mood to tackle this. So when my finger was kind of like on the mend, I was doing some roughs that I was going to take into Procreate Dreams and see, you know, how things went. I still find Procreate Dreams to be a little bit clunky. I think that as a software, it still needs some, it's still sort of in development. There's still some key features that I think that are kind of missing. But I think that it works well in tandem with Procreate. So what I ended up doing was using Procreate's animation assistant and doing my keyframes and kind of like renders in Procreate, and then I took them into Dreams to kind of like refine. About halfway through the week, my finger was pretty much completely better. It's still a little bit sore and bruised right now, but it doesn't get in the way of me doing like my normal daily tasks and stuff. I guess the only like thing that it impedes with is like trying to bring in like too many bags of groceries at a time. You know, like when you're carrying in like plastic bags and stuff, and the handle of the bag kind of like cuts into your finger because of the weight of like the bags. Yeah, so yeah, that's the only thing that really been getting into my way. I did decide to go in and make these skill trigger animations, and I wanted to talk a little bit about two different things in this video. One about like workflow and the process that I always talk about, like, oh, enjoy the process, and what that process could be for like for you or for anybody else could be completely different from like what kind of process that I enjoy. But I think that it's taken me 40 years in my life to like kind of like really understand myself and like the way that my brain works, and my personality, and what it is that I really derive like from art and from the process that is so compelling, that I just wanted to go in a little bit more detail about that. So one thing that I noticed, especially more recently, but I would say like especially since I started like doing game development, that is like really crucial to like enjoying the process, or staying in a state of like what I would say is like hyper focus. Like I talked a little bit in my video about how I get laser focused on things, and when I'm in this state, things that like would normally be considered like work or labor, like doing these this animation, doesn't feel like tiring. It feels actually kind of invigorating. It feels like it gives me energy. So like when I finish working on this animation, I think that I was physically tired because I had spent like a really long time at my desk, like working on these things for like several days straight. And like I do reach a point like kind of late at night where like my physical ability to like get my hands and my eyes and like everything to like focus just kind of like does come to a limitation where I'm like, okay, I'm like physically tired. I need to like lay down and like close my eyes and go to sleep, even though like my brain is still saying like, yeah, this is fun, let's keep doing this. So that's the type of like focus that I'm talking about. It's not like the disciplined focus of like, okay, we gotta get this done by this deadline, and we gotta make this quota, and we gotta check these boxes, so let's sit down and like buckle in and like, oh god, I can't wait till this is over. Like that's how I usually think of like work being. Work is like, okay, I have to be disciplined about this, and I can't wait till this is over because this is work and nobody likes working, right? So when I am in a state of hyperfocus, though, like things don't feel like work in that regards. Like things just feel like fun, and I just want to keep going. And the only thing that's like stopping me is like, again, like physical exhaustion. And then like the next morning, I can't wait to like get up out of bed. It's like being a kid at like Christmas time or something, where it's just like I almost had trouble I had trouble falling asleep. I had trouble staying asleep. I was waking up several times in the middle of the night. You know, I was waking up first thing in the morning and it's like thinking about it, and I can't wait to get through like my obligations for the day so that I can like sit down and like squeeze in time to do the thing that I really want to do, which is like, you know, working on that thing that I'm going to be obsessed with until I actually like finish it. And sometimes that state of hyperfocus does get exhausting to the point where it starts to like trickle into that like work mindset, that grind mindset of like, oh god, you know, this, I'm not deriving energy from this anymore. This is like actually like becoming tiring, and like I need to get this over with, and I'm gonna suffer from burnout by the time I'm finished with it. And when I suffer from burnout, it's gonna be like depressing, because the thing that gets me most excited in life is like working on these types of projects and like being in that state of hyper focus, but I can't get back in there because I'm just like too burnt out. And so I've gone through this like cycle many times in my life, and I always thought that it was like because I didn't have any work-life balance or something, that okay, the state of hyperfocus is just not sustainable. Like my moods and my workflow is kind of like a roller coaster or something, and like I get to the peak, I slide down, and then like, you know, I need to like recover, and that's just all part of the process. And like I just gotta deal with that like burnout at the end. Like that's just something that we all gotta like there's just like part of like working on these things and having such intense feelings. Like it's like you gotta come down at some point, and it's gonna suck when you do, but like, you know, just get through it, know that it's coming, and you know, give yourself that time of like recovery, and then you can like find your way back into that like state of like happy times of when you're like working. But I wasn't happy during the times of like burnout and recovery. Those times in my life is when I would get like the most depressed, because I didn't feel like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Like I think that's the other thing about like working on these projects. It just feels like I'm doing what I was like meant to do, and that's what like feels like really good about it. And so I guess I just wasn't like content to like go through that cycle over and over again. So I'm like, what is it, you know? Let me be really mindful about what I'm doing. Like, what is there a way to like kind of balance these things in a way that's going to be sustainable for me? And what I realized, like kind of doing like game development, is that my brain and my process, there's a certain kind of like mental state that I'm in that seems to be the most sustainable for me. So like I think I crave like a certain level of novelty and challenge and problem solving. I like learning new things, and I like being challenged, and I kind of like that state. I don't know what to call it exactly, but that state of like trying to like figure things out. So like with programming, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I think sometimes like those who aren't like trained artists, like with the animation, might not realize how much like problem solving goes into like animation. So if you're curious to learn more, I would highly recommend like looking up like the 12 principles of animation. There's a lot of thought that goes into animation, and much like programming, like things don't like happen by accident. So like you don't just put a pencil on a paper and just like sketch around and like have something turn out good like by accident. Like you might be feeling around and like make a lot of mistakes, but everything that turns out good will have some intentionality behind it. Like whether you're fully aware of like all the results of your observations, like some of it could be a little bit intuitive, that you might not be like actually like conscious of like, okay, this needs to move in an arc because an arc is natural, and this velocity needs to like ease in and ease out and stuff in order for like that motion to be natural. Like you might not be like thinking of the physics of everything like consciously, but like there needs to be some level of awareness and observation and like conveyance of these ideas in order for your animation to look like readable and like natural and not like jittery, jarring, and like weird. So unlike programming where like you have to be like precise, like with programming like you can come up with different solutions for like certain problems and stuff, but like you need the proper syntax in order to get the computer to like, you know, execute your idea. Even like perhaps like your programming is not like the most optimal, but you still need to like have like the correct language in order to convey it. Like animation has more room for like subjectivity, is not quite as objective in like your execution. So like you can kind of add a little bit more like artistry, I guess, to like how you convey a lot of the principles that the more technical aspects of it have more wiggle room, I guess, I think, than like programming does. But it's still, at the end of the day, a very technical kind of like art form, not like I guess like maybe like painting or like sculpting. There's still like certain technique and you know I guess laws of like physics and like with the materials that you're working with and everything that you have to work with. You know, there's certain like laws of reality that you still have to be confined by, but in general, it's not doesn't require quite as much like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like technique as like something like animation. So there are certain like artistic like disciplines that are a little bit more like just, they just require a little bit more like actual like conscientious like intent of like problem solving and awareness of like certain things. So that's not to say that like certain art forms are like superior to others. It's just a different mindset, and my particular mindset is more geared towards like having that more technical aspect of like doing art, and then there's a certain point where you've solved the problem. Like I've done my my roughs, and I figured out like the way that I need to convey the idea in a way that's like has like enough visual clarity, you know, for the audience to like see the motion that I'm trying to show. And then the problem solving is done, and then the rest of it is just execution, where it's just like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I just need to like do the labor of like filling in all the blanks and like, you know, padding it out or whatever to like make it presentable. Like I need to go through and like refine it. And this part of the process is something that I actually enjoy to a certain extent as well, because it's kind of like relaxing. It's like doing dishes, or it's like, you know, I don't know, painting a wall or something. It's just like a repetitive kind of like motion where I can kind of turn my brain off and just kind of zone out. But at some point, this part where I'm just in like the kind of execution phase does get old and stale and boring, and you know, it's not like that happens within like a day or like 2 days or like even necessarily a month, but like working on comics and like producing like a 300-page comic, I can safely say by the end of the comic, like I was sick and tired of the execution phase. And that's where I get like burnt out, is when I day by day I'm just in that kind of like grind set mode of discipline. Okay, I need to get this done for the sake of like finishing my vision, for like, you know, producing the end result, blah blah blah. So these 2-second short animations are kind of like the perfect just like blend of like doing the problem solving, the novelty, the brain exercise that's kind of like interesting, and the reward centers for like solving the problem are like firing off, and I'm like in that kind of like state of like very creative mindset, and everything is kind of like fresh and like feels good. And you know, like being in that constant problem solving mindset for too long also becomes like kind of like it wears me out. It will cause a lot of mental fatigue. So like I don't want to be in that state like all the time. At some point I have to get to a point where I'm more in that kind of easy breezy execution mode. So you know, being in that kind of like problem solving mindset, that like heavy concentration and like creative mode for like a day, doing like the roughs and stuff, and feeling out my my final inks and things, and my timing with like my pencil test and stuff, and then going into like the rendering process of like, okay, doing the coloring, doing the special effects, and blah blah blah, refinement stage of like kind of the easy breezy execution stage for like 2 days. So that like 2-to-1 ratio is like really nice. Like I feel like I could keep doing this like just nonstop. Like there's no fatigue. There's only that kind of like state of like hyper focus of like, oh, this feels really good. I can't wait to wake up in the morning. This energizes me. I'm so having so much fun. And I feel like I can safely say that this is like how my process is most optimal, because like this is how I've been approaching like Arcane Dice Wars, and I'm going into my second year, and it still feels really good. Like I'm still really excited about working on it and getting through the end of like Villain's Heart, that end part where I'm like writing the endings, which is usually like the most difficult for me to like have to be disciplined to go through, because by that time I have figured out like the entire story, and it's all execution, and usually that execution phase is like too long, and it starts to like get grindy and like you know, I guess kind of boring for me. I was still able to get through it like relatively unscathed. I didn't suffer any burnout afterwards. I was able to jump into like working on Arcane Dice Wars like right after. So I think I finally kind of reached like a happy point in my process where I found like that perfect like golden ratio of like doing like the problem solving and then like the execution phases, and not like having any one phase be like too long where it gets to that point where it starts to feel like grindy and feel like work. Like it can still feel like play 24/7, which is a great way to go through life. So I'm really excited to like share that. This ended up being longer than I thought it would be to talk about like that part of the process. So I guess like next video I will talk a little bit about like why I chose to do these 2-second animations and what I hope to achieve with them, and why I feel like this is a good use of my time and labor for the overall experience of the game. And yeah, I guess I'll talk about that next time, because I think this is getting kind of long. But I just was kind of excited to like share my thoughts with like why I think like process is finally kind of working, and it's taking me such a long time, I guess, to figure out how my brain wants to work.
Oh, no, you don't.
So yeah, this is Jen signing off, and don't forget to enjoy the process. Take care now. Bye.